Hello, everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I am so excited to be here for day 3 of our Trauma No More workshop. It has been absolutely fire. And I know you guys are probably thinking, girl, you say it every day, but I am so serious. If you guys have been here for day 1, day 2, and even the group coaching call that we had last night, then you can attest that this week has been so fire. So as you guys are coming in, make sure you drop a hashtag live below in the comments. And if you are catching the replay, make sure you drop a hashtag replay in the comments, because I like to know who is tuning in so that I can give you a personal shout out or send you a personal note in the comments. If you guys are catching a replay, you guys know I always go back and acknowledge your presence and, just engage with you guys. I always say that this is interactive. In order to get the most out of our time together, it's important that you guys interact, engage, and really just tune into what is being said, participate in the comments, and all of the things. Okay, hey Jazz. Okay, I'm gonna call you Jadan because that's what's on here. But hey, girl, thank you for being here, and thank you for giving StreamYard permission to see, so that I can see your name today, because I love to shout you guys out. So thank you for being here. If you guys have caught day 1 and day 2, drop a hashtag day 1 and day 2 in the comments, because I want to know who has been following. Because if you guys have been following, you know that this has been a building block. We started Tuesday, talking about the foundation, which is our values, and then yesterday we talked about the pillars. Okay, the thing that holds the walls together, which is our beliefs. And today we're going to be talking about our covering, so the roof. So we've been using this analogy, this house analogy, to really build upon what we are doing here in this workshop. So if you guys have been catching all the videos, I want to know who's caught them, who hasn't caught them, because if you haven't, I'm going to encourage you to go back and watch the replay, because you've missed some pivotal pieces to the puzzle. We are building a house here, and it is so important that we get all of the pieces so that our house doesn't have any leaks, any cracks, any things of that nature. So that's what we're doing here. Good morning, Alex. Thank you for being here. Thank you for the hashtag live. I see you guys viewing, but I don't see the comments coming through. Okay, there goes Makiba. She says, I've been following. Okay. Thank you for being here, Makiba. Good morning, you guys. Good morning, you guys. Okay, like I said, we kicked off our 3-day workshop learning all about values, which we understand is that foundation for our lives. It is the very thing that influences our decisions and our actions, even the way we choose our relationships and our careers. Okay, that's what we learned on day 1. On day 2, which was yesterday, we talked about the values, which are the interpersonal pillars that determine how we see ourselves, how we see other people, and also how we see the world around us. So we know that that is a representation of whether we see ourselves at our lives rather as a glass half full or a glass half empty. We've all heard that term. So when we broke it down yesterday, we realized what that term really means. Okay, are we seeing it from a negative lens, or are we seeing it from a positive lens? And that's the difference between a half full glass and a half empty glass. So we understand that our beliefs are the very thing that influence the successes of our relationships, our actual success in life, the ability to break toxic cycles, and ultimately recreate our desired life. So that's why we are here, right? That is exactly why we're here. So today we're going to be talking about our boundaries, and you will be learning how you can position yourself in your relationships to be built on respect from the start. Okay, that's the key. We're building relationships to be built on respect from the start, not something that you feel like you have to earn, not something you feel like you have to dig and pull teeth for. That's not what we're here for. Anybody who doesn't respect you from the start, I'm going to tell you now, it's probably not meant to be. It's a red flag right off the bat. Okay, but back on topic. So our boundaries, like I said, we're building a house here. The foundation was the values, the pillars or the posts that hold the walls together were your beliefs. And today we're going to be talking about boundaries, which is the roof of your So it's your protection for yourself and for others, right? We've been using this house analogy. I'm gonna keep saying this because when you walk away from this training, I want you to have something that is relatable. So this house analogy, okay, is what we're using. That's what we've been using. We've been talking about the house model as an example. So the foundation or the base or the flooring, however you want to talk about it or think about it, that's your values. The pillars or the studs, so those are the beams that go into the foundation that we attach the walls to. We use it as a stabilizer to hold the walls together. That is your beliefs, okay? And now we're going to be talking about the boundaries, which is the roof or the covering of everything, right? So before we jump in today, I want to take a minute to have you congratulate yourself for showing up each and every day and doing the work. And I just want to say thank you for you guys who have been doing the homework. Thank you to you guys who have been commenting on the videos, and a huge thank you to you guys who have been inviting people to the group. God has really been moving through our time here together, and it's been a blessing to see and hear so many of you women be transformed through what it is that God has given me to share with you. Last night, you guys know we had our group coaching call, and it was so amazing to see the ladies have those aha moments. So if you guys were in that coaching call last night, shout yourself out in the comments because it was so amazing. The truth is, sometimes we just need somebody to help us really break down some of the things that we're thinking in a way that is understandable, and then walk us through the steps to creating the desired outcomes that we really want. And that's exactly what we've been doing here in these daily sessions, and also in last night's coaching call. So the women who were there were able to get clear, practical steps on their individual life in their individual situations in ways that they can apply it and start to create their desired outcome. So that was the point of the coaching call. And we're also going to have a little Facebook room here in the group right after our time here on live. So if you're available right after we get off, you might want to join that too, because that's another opportunity for you to get that individualized plan for your life as well. So that's what coaching is all about. It's about digging deep to uncover the real blocks that you're having and working through it and taking action. See, the action piece is what's important. We're taking action to maintain that change. So it's been so excited. And I just wanted to say thank you guys, and make sure you guys thank yourself, because this is not a small task. And if you've been showing up here every day, it shows that you're committed to change. It shows that you are really here to have that breakthrough. And I truly enjoy serving you and watching your minds and your lives be transformed. It's a blessing for me, and I just want to be a blessing to you in the process. So you guys, you know that we are doing a random gift card giveaway to each person, or to one person each day. Yesterday it was Renee Nelson, and today's gift card winner is Makiba Shelton Ford. So congratulations, Makiba. You are the winner of our $20 gift card giveaway today. So make sure you reach out to me and let me know what store of choice you would like your gift card from. Our winner yesterday, Renee, she chose Target. So I went ahead and sent her over her digital $20 Target gift card, and she was just so appreciative. And you know what, you guys, I just want to be a blessing. I know that there is some things that as some requirements to be qualified for the drawing, which is doing the homework and really engaging in the comments and inviting some friends. But I'm asking you to do that because it shows that you're ready to take initiative. It shows that you're really here to get a transformation. So I could just give away a gift card to any old body, but you want to really be able to reward the people who are doing the work, the people who are trying, the people who know how important this transformation is for them. And you guys, like I said, this is a free event, okay? It's a free event. So you're getting so much information and so much value. I just want to see you guys take action, because a lot of times when things are free, we tend to not really pay it much attention. We don't take it serious. But think about the time and the energy in the things that the information that you're being given. If you really do something with it, you can really transform your life. And I want to celebrate you guys for doing that. So that's why the gift cards giveaways is something that we do. So take some time, you guys that are viewing, congratulate Makiba for winning today, and congratulate Renee as well for winning yesterday. And I'm excited to see who today's winner is. I'm going to come on live and announce today's winner tomorrow. That's the way we always do it. Okay, so let's get to it. Today we will be talking about boundaries. This is one of my favorite pieces to the puzzle for many, many, many reasons. So some of you guys may know name of my Okay, you guys, am I back? Am I back? Let me know in the comments if you can still see me. I see there's still a few of you guys watching, and oh my gosh, I cannot believe you guys just hung on for like 3 whole minutes. So if I am back, tell me you can hear me, tell me you can see me. The devil is a liar, and we ain't giving him no credit, because go forth. This word shall go out to God's people, and that is what I believe. So if you can hear me, let me know you can hear me before I carry on, because we were just about to start and get into the juicy details of boundaries. Okay, yes, you can hear me. Yes, you can see me. Can I just take a minute and tell y'all the real MVPs? Y'all was hanging out waiting for me, and I just thank you, thank you, thank you so much. So y'all the real MVPs. Okay, I'm glad y'all can hear me. Okay, so like I was saying, today we will be talking about boundaries, and this is one of my favorite pieces of the puzzle, and I think I was going into the story of how boundaries be became so special to me. Okay, so many of you guys know that Boundaries Over Brokenness is the name of my business, and this business name and the business vision came into play after spending several years of self-healing and therapy, my trauma and my toxic behaviors and my limiting beliefs, or my negative beliefs, if you will, and understanding what was the things that I valued in life and how to center my world around my values, right? But I found myself always taking 10 steps forward and 20 steps back. Now, I said that correctly. I took 10 steps forward, so I make a whole bunch of progress, but then I find myself back, not just at ground one, but way back, even further back than ground zero, okay? So I couldn't understand how I was constantly making so much progress, just to be in the same position over and over again. That's how I coined the phrase living my life on repeat. And that's what I say to a lot of people, because I realize that this happens to a lot of us. We find ourselves in the same situation over and over again. And then I realized through a lot of thought work, a lot of journaling, a lot of coaching, a lot of digging deep, that I really lacked boundaries, causing me to return to the same state of brokenness over and over and over again. So what happens is we have to figure these things out, right? And sometimes we figure out our values, we figure out our beliefs, and we have our values in place, we have good beliefs, but then we have no boundaries, which leaves us open and exposed. And that tarnishes the foundation and the pillars of your values and your beliefs. Okay. Remember the house model. We're going back to the house model. So you can have those good values. I had those. You can have those, right? But I had no boundaries. So that means I had no covering. I had nothing that was protecting me from outside sources and outside things that could come and tarnish the valuables, which was my values and my beliefs, to protect me. Okay. So you know that the values are the foundation, right? You're going to hear me say this over and over and over again, because I really want you guys to walk away with understanding this concept. Okay. The values are your foundation. The beliefs are the support. It's the things that we put in the wall, and we attach the walls to the drywall and all the things. We put the installation inside of it, the whole 9 yards, right? But when you think of the house model, what happens when you build a house, right? You put in a good foundation, you have your walls up, your pillars, your drywall, you got all the things put together, right? But then you forget to attach the roof. So apply this to your life. Apply this to my story as well. I had the foundation in, I had my walls built, but I didn't have covering. I forgot to attach my roof. So what happens in that case, right? We ruin everything inside of it. So that's why I kept living my life on repeat. And that's why many of you guys may be stuck in a situation or a circumstance where you're living your life on repeat. Because what happens is you're ruining everything from the outside in. Meaning there's no covering, there's no roof. So you get sun damage, you get wind damage, you get water damage, you name it. And in our personal lives, what happens? We have people who are constantly disrespecting us. We have people who we allow to, or we're overextending ourselves. We have the inability to say no. We have a hard time with prioritizing our self-care. We have a hard time with understanding what the red flags are in a relationship. These are all the things that happen when we lack boundaries. If you guys are following me, let me know you're following me. Let me know this house model makes sense for you guys as we apply it to our actual life. Okay. So all of the damage starts to come in when we forget to place the covering, which is the roof, right? The roof is our boundaries. That's our covering. That's our hedge of protection. That is how we are going to set ourselves up for successful, healthy relationships from the start. So we've got our values, which is the foundation in which we lay the framework on top of. The framework is our beliefs. And then we've got our roof, which is the covering. It's the thing that we create limits to, so that we can protect ourselves and we can protect the people around us. So if you're following me, let me know you're following me. That's why we're here talking about boundaries. We have to make sure that we have a covering. I don't want you to be like me, having done all the work, but you are left open and exposed, causing you to return to step one over and over and over again. Okay. If you understand this, drop a hashtag boundaries in the comments. Drop a hashtag boundaries. Why are we doing this? Because now we understand why these boundaries are important. So let me just shout some of y'all out for being here. We got Jadan here, hashtag live. Hello, Queen. Thanks for hanging in there. Hello, Alex. Thank you for being here, and good morning to you as well. Thank you for that hashtag live outs. If you guys are new coming in, drop your hashtag lives too, so I can shout you out. Makiba, she says, I've been following. Thank you, girl. Thank you. Makiba is the gift card winner, so make sure you guys congratulate her. And she says she wants it from JCPenney's. Okay, girl. Go ahead with your bad self. This Facebook user, I think you meant to say hi. I think this might be you down here. Hello, welcome, good morning or afternoon, depending on what part of the world you are in. Says it's buffering, it's froze. Yes, you guys, the devil is a lie. He tried to come on in and take the internet away, but you know, we rebuke that in the name of Jesus and we keep moving. So thank you guys for waiting for me. Thank you for waiting for me. Okay, so Jasmine says mine too, and then Makiba updated the people. If you guys don't know, Makiba's my blood cousin and I love her dearly. So thank you for keeping me on track, my dear. Um, and Alex says, stay tuned, she's coming back. Thank you for keeping the women encouraged and letting them know that I'm coming back. And Makiba says, I see you. Jasmine says, yes, I can see you. Makiba says, yes, I can hear you. Yes, she's back. Alex says, Bree, hello, queen, how are you? Boundaries always seem to like common sense, but actually practicing it is not. I'm so glad that you wrote this, because we're going to be digging into this. We're actually going to talk about how you can maintain boundaries in those tough situations. So stay tuned, queen. Stay with us. Hang in there with us. I can visualize the house motto. Okay, thank you, Makiba. Hashtag boundaries. Hashtag boundaries. Um, get Get back, Satan. Absolutely. Get thee behind me. Get thee underneath me, because you have no place here. Hashtag boundaries. Okay, you guys. I'm so glad you are following. So let's get into this, you guys. What is boundaries? Okay. What is the boundaries? We're going to talk about what these boundaries are. Why? Because before we can even start doing anything and figuring out how to create the boundaries, how to set them, how to maintain them, right? We have to understand what they are. So personal boundaries are that physical, emotional, and mental limits that we establish to protect ourselves from being manipulated, used, or violated by other people. Okay. A boundary is something that we set for other people, but it's also something we set for ourselves, right? So when we think about the house model, and we think about this definition, we talked about having that covering. That is what your boundaries are there to do. It protects you from being manipulated, used, abused, violated, pushed upon, trampled on, all of the things. That is what we're here to talk about. So now that we understand what our boundaries are, let's kind of go into this a little bit deeper. So we know that boundaries there an imaginary line. It's not something that we can tangibly see. It's an intangible thing, right? It's an intangible thing that we do to create space between, whether it be physical space, body space, your feelings, your emotions, all of those things. Okay. That's what those boundaries do. They create that space between our personal space, our sexuality, our emotions, our thoughts, even. Okay, your thoughts, even too, your stuff, so your possessions, the tangible things that you can actually see, so your phone or your house, your car, whatever it is, things like that, your time and your energy. See, a lot of times we don't even think about, when we lack boundaries, we expend so much energy on things that are a complete waste of our time, or they're none of our business in the first place, right? Because we don't have boundaries to tell people no, or we're always sacrificing ourselves for other people. Okay, boundaries are also can be cultural or religious or ethical. You guys have heard me talk about my belief as a Christian, right? So my boundaries are going to be set upon that. There's certain things, just like the devil trying to interrupt our little session here, that are just unacceptable. It's a hard no for me. Like, no, absolutely not today, Satan, right? It's a boundary. So when you guys think about your boundaries, it can also be around your religious beliefs, your cultural beliefs, your ethics, your values. Okay, these are all things that boundaries can be set for. Okay, so setting boundaries for yourself and honoring the boundaries of others isn't always going to be something that is easy, which one of our queens in the comments just talked about. Like it's hard to maintain them in the moment, right? But when we do, we learn ways to take charge of our lives. And that's what we're doing, right? When we create that covering over ourselves, we begin to have that feeling of independence again. We begin to take charge over our life, over our time, our finances, our personal space, our thoughts, our emotions, our religious beliefs, our culture. The list goes on. Should I keep going? I think you guys catch the drift, right? So it doesn't matter if you need to set clearer boundaries um, with your family, with your intimate partners, or even you need to insert a boundary between strangers, so people you're just meeting. In this training, in this video today, you're going to learn how you can get started and how you can start to lay those boundaries out, right? Okay. So we've talked about some of the benefits of boundaries so far, but I want you guys to let me know in the comments. Hi there. I want you guys to let me know in the comments, what are some boundaries that you have in your life? Okay, let's start there. What are some of the boundaries that you have set in your life already, that you already know about? And if you have time, or if you feel like it, you can share with us why those boundaries are important too. Okay, so what are some of the boundaries you set in your life? Okay, so as we know, the benefits of boundaries are, you get that better self-esteem. You start conserving that emotional energy. and you feel more independent. Okay. Boundaries improve your relationships and your self esteem. So that's the way you feel about yourself. That's the way you see yourself. So we talked about yesterday how your beliefs are a direct controlling factor of your self esteem and your the way you see yourself, right? So it's important that you understand that boundaries, again, the covering, we have to see. You guys may notice how all of the days that we've talked have been flowing into one another, right? Your values were impacted by your beliefs and vice versa. And now your boundary is going to be impacted by your values and your beliefs at the same time. So it's all flowing into one another. It's a building block. I said that yesterday, right? So our boundaries, they protect the relationships from becoming unsafe. So those of you guys who said in the comments that you're afraid of attracting another toxic relationship, or you're afraid of trusting people, or you're not quite sure how to set these boundaries and make people respect them, for lack of a better term, this is why we are here today. We're here to talk about this because boundaries, again, they're your covering, they're your protection, and without them you will feel as if there is no ability to protect yourself from these outside things that come to kill, steal, and destroy. That's biblical. Just saying. Okay. So boundaries are not drawn in permanent ink. That's one thing I have to say before we even get into this. Boundaries are not drawn in permanent ink. What do I mean by that? I basically mean that it is good for you to check them occasionally and reassess them, because the boundaries you have today may not be the boundaries that you have 6 months from now, or a year from now, or 10 years from now, right? So a lot of times our boundaries are tend to be built upon our current circumstances. So if you're somebody who has been in a toxic relationship, and every relationship you had has been toxic, there may be things on your list of boundaries today to protect you from having that kind of a relationship that may not be on your red flag list or your hard no list or your boundaries list. I call boundaries hard no. So you guys may hear me say hard no's a lot, and I just want to throw that out there. But it may be on your list today and it may not be on your list 10 years from now. Why? Because you've healed from that. You recognize the red flags, and it's not something that you necessarily need to put a boundary up for, but you just understand that that's just something you're not going to tolerate. And that's something that's directly feeding from your values and directly feeding from your beliefs, right? So so some person said, one of the Facebook users said, you don't touch animals in a hurt way. Wait, you don't touch animals in a hurt way. So that's a boundary. I'm going to tell you guys a funny story. I'm afraid of dogs, definitely afraid of dogs. So like a boundary for me is no. How big is the dog? I'm not coming over if the dog is like bigger than the size of my calf, or height of my calf rather. Currently working on boundary building. Okay, then you're in the right place, Bree. You're in the right place. My animals or any animals. Okay, I love that. I love that. That's a good boundary to have. Okay, so when boundaries are too rigid, let's talk about this, because we need to know the difference between too rigid of a boundaries and too loose of a boundaries, and what happens when we're on either side of that, right? So when boundaries are too rigid or inflexible, problems can occur, such as you become isolated. Okay, there's a couple of you guys who have been chatting with in the inbox, and you say, I don't have any friends, I don't have anybody to talk to. Sometimes that's because our boundaries have become boulders, or they have become walls, and we're going to talk about that's not what we're here to do. We're not here to create walls. What we're here to do is create a healthy protection, or a healthy imaginary line to have mutually respectful relationships. But when they're rigid, you become isolated. It makes it hard for you to connect with people. Okay, boundaries, and so that's boundaries that are too rigid, but boundaries that are too loose can also create problems. Okay, what happens is there's a breakdown of trust. You find yourself overly sacrificing. So those people who feel like you have to give, and you forget to take care of yourself, that means there may be a lack of boundaries there, or your boundaries are too loose. Okay, remembering boundaries are created to allow you to conserve emotional energy. It also allows you to become comfortable with advocating for yourself. So we have to find that spot, that sweet spot. So that's the healthy place when we talk about boundaries. We don't want them too rigid. We don't want to be creating walls and boulders, but we also don't want them to be too loose, where we're just overly exposing ourselves or breaking down the trust in our relationships, because we cannot establish that healthy line of boundaries. Okay, so without boundaries, your self-esteem and your identity can be impacted, causing you to feel resentful? How many of you guys have been in a situation where you feel like you just resent a person, you resent a situation, you can resent your job, you can resent, a person that you have a relationship with, whether it be your parents, whether it be a significant other, whether it be your adult children, if you have adult children. If there is like a lack of boundaries or those boundaries are too rigid, you start to feel resentful. One of the queens, I'm not going to shout her out, but she may know who I am. She posted on our video from Monday about how her responsibility to be the caretaker was so heavy upon her. Eventually in life, she started to, feel some kind of way about it. Right. And that's because she didn't take the time to set a boundary and say, okay, I'm going to take care of myself, but and this is how much I can offer to other people. It's okay to say that we can't do it all. But when we are overly sacrificing and when we are overextending ourselves, what happens is you become resentful. Okay. So understanding that boundaries can be different for different people. So I know we like to think that this whole boundary thing is black and white, where it's not. The same boundaries you would have with me may not be the same boundaries that you have with your next door neighbor or your best friend or your mom or your dad or your children. Your boundaries are going to be different depending on the person. And I want you guys to give yourself permission to have boundaries that are differing for each person, because that is completely normal and it is also completely healthy. Okay. So, Bree says, wow, that's deep. Boundaries versus boulders and walls. Absolutely. It's a thing, right? And that's where a lot of us find ourselves being. We become so hurt from a thing. We've become so afraid of a thing that instead of creating a healthy boundary, we've created a wall or a boulder where nothing can penetrate. Okay. And that's what we're trying to avoid doing or undo if you're in that situation. Okay. So by setting boundaries and breaking them when it's time to show vulnerability, this could make you feel a little less, what is the word I'm looking for? When you break them and you don't, or when you're breaking them, first of all, you're setting an example for a person to say that this isn't really important and they don't have to respect you in that manner, right? And how it makes you feel is less important, feeling like you cannot stand up for yourself, making it hard for you to advocate for yourself. So it's important to understand what happened, the cause and effect of having boundaries and not with upholding them. Okay. So I want to jump into some boundary red flags just so that you guys can get a visual of what happens when boundaries aren't going so well. Okay. Because I think a lot of times, like I said, we talk about boundaries and how to set them and all the things, but it's really important. One of my specialties when it comes to boundaries is not just teaching you how to create them, but teaching you how to create them, set them. So setting them is the first time that they're being communicated in whichever way they're communicated, but maintaining them. So what do you do when somebody's pushing you back? So I want you guys to hang with me, and we're going to go through this flow together, and make sure you got your pen and paper out because we're going to get into the juicy details. Okay. So the boundary red flags could be like when you see somebody on social media posting rants or attacks every single day. We're all in the land of social media, but if you see somebody who's constantly spilling all their business or attacking somebody or always got the tea, that's probably a red flag. That's probably an indication that that person doesn't have boundaries. And if this is a person you're close to, beware, because it could be your business that's being posted all on social media as the next daily tea. Okay. So that's a red flag. When someone doesn't have a filter or they have no regard for life or your feelings or other people's feelings or emotions, that is a red flag. That tells me that that person may not have empathy. This person is all out for self, and they usually make your situations a mockery. They don't understand the importance of having that vulnerability within the relationship and respecting that this is between you and them. Okay. So when a person is also sharing too many personal details, okay, and this is common when you meet somebody new and you just met them and all of a sudden they're telling you their whole life story and then some. This is not an invitation for you to tell your whole life story and then some. This is actually a red flag, because when we are setting healthy boundaries and positioning ourselves to have healthy relationships and have healthy connections, we don't build those connections by telling everybody our whole life story on the first day. It's about mutually getting to know each other and letting the stories come naturally as you feel comfortable and as you feel safe, because you don't share vulnerable details about yourself in a place that isn't safe. So if you are the person who's sharing your whole life story on the first day and it's not appropriate, then I would advise you to really take a step back and ask yourself, what is it that you're trying to obtain? What is it that's causing you to feel like you need to word vomit all over someone when you've just met them? This is important for when you're dating. This is important for when you're building business relationships. This is important when you have friendships that you're trying to develop. Okay. These things are really, really important. Okay. So we're talking about the boundary red flags. Another red flag is if somebody is dominating a conversation, so it's one-sided. So you are trying to get to know somebody, or you're trying to have a conversation with somebody, and it's all about them. If that person never stops to say, how are you doing? Checking in with you genuinely, or asking genuinely something about you to engage you back into that conversation, then they're probably lacking some boundaries, or they just simply don't care. Either way, it's a red flag. Okay. Now, this is a big one. For you guys who feel like you're fixers, you're doers, you're caregivers, you feel like sacrificing yourself is what you should do in life. A boundary red flag is expecting you to be on call all the time, whether it be for emotional, physical emergencies where you hopping in your car to drive across town or states, for family members and friends. If someone thinks that you are their personal therapist, their personal emergency 911 person, that is a boundary that is being broken. And it is an opportunity for you to set a boundary with that person, but you also have to turn that lens internal. What part are you playing in this relationship? Are you constantly running to their rescue every time they call you at 3 a.m. or every time something is quote unquote an emergency for them? We have to understand our part that we play, but that is definitely a boundary red flag. Okay. So now that we know what boundaries, red flags are, let's talk about how our boundaries are being shaped. Okay. First of all, let me check in with you guys that are watching. What one of these different boundary red flags have you experienced in your life? Tell me, have you experienced any of the ones that I mentioned, or either some other boundary red flags that you've identified in your life? Why am I asking you guys to engage and really think about this? Because you're now starting to practically apply this information to your life. So tell me in the comments, what are some boundary red flags that you've encountered in your life? Okay. Or even this week. That's why we're here, right? What are some boundary red flags that you've encountered? Okay. Put that on the screen below. I want to hear from you guys. Let me create a little thing for you. So while you guys are doing that, we're gonna get into how boundaries are shaped. Okay. I'm waiting for your comments to come through. I love when you guys are engaging with me. There is your question that we are answering. Okay. So how are our boundaries shaped? First of all, we talked about this a little bit earlier. Our heritage or our culture, right? So what is something about your past that has helped you shape your boundaries, right? It could be good, it could be bad. Remember, we are deconstructing and reconstructing. I love that word because sometimes we've created boundaries that are boulders. So we need to deconstruct to reconstruct, figure out which ones are good, which ones are bad, what needs to go, what needs to stay, what needs to be tweaked. It could be the region you live in or where you come from. I'm not from New York, but I often hear that New Yorkers have this way of life. They have this way of talking. They are down to earth and they just say things like it is. This is what I hear from people. I know a couple of New Yorkers and I just be like, man, I jive with these people. We get along. But for some people who may not be from a culture like that, it may be like off-putting. So boundaries are shaped by the region we've grown up in, our culture, our heritage, where we've come from, right? Now, it's also shaped on your personality. So if you're introverted, extroverted, somewhere in between, or some of the other different personality types, if you guys have never done any personality typing, I encourage you to do so because that's how they're shaped, right? Your life experiences, your family dynamics. We always keep going back to these family dynamics. Why do we keep going back to these family dynamics? Because your family dynamics have such an impression on who you are and what you do and the outcomes you have for life. And if you're not reevaluating them when it comes to your boundaries and when your beliefs and your values, before you know it, you have this life that you've created that you absolutely resent. And that's what we're trying to undo here. Okay. So Jadan says saving people. That's one of the boundary red flags in her life. Yes. That's a huge one. How do you set that 911 counselor boundary? We're going to get there, Makiba. Great question. Keep hanging here because we're going to get there. Okay. Oversharing. Okay. Jadan says another red flag is the oversharing. Okay. That's a common one. Caregiver, superhero, oversharer. Yes. Love that. Love that. The emotional connection too quick. I learned that during divorce care at church. I thought I was doing the right thing, but found out it actually opened me up for woo, this is deep. This is so good. This is exactly what we've been talking about and what we're building upon today. Sometimes, that oversharing and that quick connection we think is, oh, this person just gets me and they love me, except what you're doing is becoming a feeding ground for abusers. And that's what we're here to deconstruct and reconstruct a more healthy foundation. So how do you define your boundaries? That's what we're about to go over right now. There is a few questions that I want you guys to answer as we go through this, okay? Right now, before we even go through how to actually healthily define our boundaries, I want you to write in the comments, how are you defining your boundaries right now? Okay? Let me know, because this is important for you, but I want you to share, because again, we're practically applying this to our lives. So right now today, how are you defining your boundaries? We're digging deep, we're doing the work, because we want to see what are our blind spots and what do we need to do to change them, or what needs to be changed. So how are you defining your boundaries today? Let me know in the comments, okay? I'm waiting for them to come through. I love that you guys are engaging with me. Okay. So first of all, when we talk about defining our boundaries, we have to understand that we need to investigate them and define them through self-reflection. So when we're investigating, we're going back to that interpersonal piece, which was your beliefs. When we're investigating, we're going back to what are the things that we value. Okay. Why are we doing that? Because that is the pivotal piece to you being able to establish healthy boundaries for yourself. Remember, my boundaries will be different from yours, and will be different from Jadan's, will be different from Akiba's, will be different from Bree's, and different for Alex's, different for all of you guys. Okay. It's always going to be different. So this is huge. So Makiba says she's defining her boundaries by blocking this Carla. Okay, block and delete. Okay, I'm gonna go out on a limb and say to you, Makiba, that you have probably created bound boulders and walls instead of boundaries. Okay, I'm just gonna say that. Not dating at all, working on healing so that I don't open myself up to the same personalities. This is good. Okay. So you've identified that there is a type of person that you attract, and created a boundary for you that could be a wall if you just said, I'm not dating ever. I mean, you did say you're not dating at all, but you said you're working on healing so you don't open yourself up to the same kinds of people. That tells me it's a healthy boundary and not a wall or a boulder. Okay. That's so good. Anything that I have identified as something that is throughout me off path, or throwing you, I think you're saying throwing you off path, I have set a boundary to that. Okay. So to Bree, tell me, what are some of those things that you've recognized maybe throwing you off path? Okay. That's how I currently identify some boundaries. I got you, Makifa. I got you, girl. Throwing. Yep. I think I got that. So that's good, you guys. So when we start to identify and investigate our boundaries, right? I told you there's a couple of questions that you have to ask yourself. Number one is, what are your rights? It's at the bottom of the screen, scrolling there. What are your rights? Okay. What are your rights? Why are we asking ourselves this? Because it's important to identify what are your basic human rights, right? And some of those rights are, you have the right to say no without feeling guilty. Okay. I'm teaching you this. So if you guys are taking notes, write this down. Why are we asking ourselves what are our rights? You have the right to say no without feeling guilty. You have the right to be treated with respect. These are your basic rights, right? This is not something that needs to be earned. This is not something that needs to be worked for. This is just something that you should flat out get. This is your deserve. We're talking about upping our deserve level. So if you guys are with me, drop a hashtag upping the deserve level. Okay? And what are some of your other rights? You have the right to make your needs as important as others. Did you hear me? Your needs are as important as other people, if not more important. But we can start with just equal. That means your children's needs are more important, your parents' needs are more important, your significant others' needs aren't more important, your best friend's needs are not more important. Everybody's needs are important. So when you're looking at making a decision on whether you should or shouldn't, then you should really look at how it is going to impact you personally to do it, okay? You have the right to be accepting of your mistakes and your failures. This is a part of that self-compassion. This is a part of that self-trust, that self-love. You have the right to make mistakes, and it's okay. We all make mistakes. That's how we learn, right? And you have the right to not meet other people's unreasonable requests. No, I'm not driving 45 minutes at 3:45 in the morning because you decided to go out and get drunk on the town and whatever else. No, I'm not going to do that. Okay? No, I'm not going to be Captain Save whatever. Okay? That's not who I am. You have the right to set that boundary. I'm going to tell you guys a story. My brother, he called me a couple of weeks ago and he literally asked me for $5,000. And then he didn't even want to tell me why he needed the $5,000. And then he got upset that I asked questions. This happened to me in real life. And then I started to tell my husband about it, and then a little bit of guilt started to set in, and I realized, no, this is a boundary. I have the right to refuse people's unreasonable request. Okay, I have the right to say no, even to my brother. So ask yourself, what are your rights? Once you identify what your rights are and choose to believe them, okay, what did we talk about yesterday? Our beliefs. Do you believe you have the right to deny somebody's unreasonable request? Do you believe you deserve respect? Do you believe you have the right to say no? Okay. So once you choose your rights and believe in them, you'll find yourself honoring them. So for that person earlier today who said it's hard to maintain those boundaries, it's a belief thing. Do you believe you have the right to ask for that respect thing, whatever it is that your ask is out there, that boundary that you're setting? Do you believe you have the right to put that boundary out there? When you honor your boundaries, you stop spending energy pacifying and pleasing people who dishonor them. You stop pacifying and pleasing these people because it's a non-factor. This is non-negotiable. This is a hard no. You either with it or you ain't. But either way, my answer is what it is. Okay? So that's important. That was question number 1. What are your rights? Okay. Question number 2 is down on the bottom of the screen. What does your gut say? What does your intuition say? What does the Holy Spirit say? Okay. What does it say? I'm going to check up on these comments before we get into the next. To be happy, healthy, and practice self-care. Yes. Overspending, setting boundaries with my kiddos and saying no. When the hubby asks to pick up food on the way home, gotta say no. Help with financial repair. Yes, this is good. Upping the deserve level. Yes, love it. I deserve respect. I love that. Love that, you guys. Okay, so the second question you guys have to ask yourself when it comes to defining your boundaries is, what does your gut say? Okay, your instincts can determine when someone is violating your boundaries or when you need to set a more clear boundary. So, what does your gut say about the situation? Okay, if you check in with yourself or listen to your body cues to determine what you can handle and where those boundaries can be drawn, you can figure out where someone may be triggering you, where there is a lack of a boundary, where there's a need to uphold that boundary. Okay, but many of us have become out of tune with ourselves, and we've forgotten how to listen to ourselves. So I really want you guys to practice learning how to listen to your body. Listen to your first mind. One of my clients, we worked through this at length with her learning how to follow her first mind. What did your first mind say? Because what was happening is her first mind would give her the answer, and her second mind or her second thought would talk her out of it, would talk her out of maintaining that boundary that she had placed. She would start to rationalize what that other person needed over her own. Okay? So it's important that you check in. So is your heart racing? Are you sweating all of a sudden? Do you feel a tightness in your chest? Does your stomach feel queasy? Are you all of a sudden having dry mouth? These are all changes that can happen within the body when someone is violating your boundary or when you need to set one, okay? These are all examples. So, what does your gut say? Have you guys identified what your body feels when your boundaries are being tested? Let me know in the comments. What kind of things have you guys noticed happen in your boundaries when you're being triggered, or when there's a lack of a boundary or a need for a boundary, or someone's testing that boundary? Let me know that in the comments, okay? Being triggered. Listen to your gut. Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay? The third question I want you guys to ask yourself when it comes to defining your boundary is, how does this boundary align with your values? Okay? You have to ask yourself this. Your boundaries are your moral philosophy. They're your values. They're your beliefs. So how does it align? If you can identify what your values are, which we already did on Monday or Tuesday, so you guys should have some kind of idea. But as you're going through your boundaries activity and answering these questions, it may be good to either revisit or rewrite, because we know that when we write things out, it helps it stick in our brains. It helps it to really become more clear. It's something about this pen to paper that makes things ultra clear. So identify what your top 10 most important values are. And then maybe you narrow that list down to 5 and figure out, how those 5 values have been challenged. Have they been tested, tread upon, poked at, triggered, making you feel uncomfortable, leaving you to feel uncomfortable? How has that happened? And then you can determine how you can place a boundary around that. This will let you know whether or not you have healthy boundaries or if your boundaries need a little help. Okay? What do you need to change, tweak? Okay? That's what we're doing here. We're defining our boundaries. Okay? So once you've defined your boundaries, you have to create them. You have to start setting them with people. Okay? You have to be assertive. You have to learn how to say no. You have to safeguard your spaces, and you have to get the support that you need. That's what this is all about, okay? So let's see. Heart starts to speed up. Okay, so you have the heart racing. Okay, someone else gets upset, so you feel your emotions changing. If you guys have been catching my videos in the group, I talked about the internal barometer. That's your pressure gauge. So when you are your base level goes above or below, you understand that someone is probably triggering your boundaries, right? They're triggering you because now you're no longer at your base, you're normal. What is your even flow tempo? What are you like when nothing is wrong? You're not happy, you're not sad, you're not upset, you're just who you are. Okay? So you get upset. Jadan says she gets upset, right? I get flushed, my hands start to shake, my stomach gets twisted. See? These are the physical manifestations in our body that tell us that there is a need for a boundary. Someone says, my nose flared. Jadan says her nose flares. See? Right? We're taking that deep breath, the deepest breath we can, to try to calm ourselves, right? These are all signs that, your boundaries are being tested. So once you guys have done the work and really asked yourself those 3 questions, now you're ready to start creating those boundaries. So let's talk about how you can draw those lines of boundaries with confidence. Number 1 is you have to be assertive, okay? Setting a boundary with assertiveness feels like it feels firm but kind to others. So being assertive is clear and non-negotiable. You're not blaming, you're not threatening, you're not doing any of that. You're simply just saying what is. And we do that by using I statements. I feel angry when you constantly criticize my parenting because blah, blah, blah. What I need you to do is blank. So you tell them what you feel, you tell them when you feel it and why you feel it, and then you put your acts in. What is your ask for them? Is your ask for them not to talk to you about parenting? Is your ask for them not to disrespect you? Is your ask for them to lower their voice? Is your ask for them to stop calling you in the middle of the night for their emergencies? What is your ask? I'm teaching you guys how to create these boundaries, right? And being okay to confidently communicate them. So using those I statements is important. The I statements, they show confidence and good boundary setting by expressing your thoughts, your feelings, and your opinions without worrying about what other people says. Remember earlier we talked about how your boundaries are you become confident about carrying them out when you believe in them. So it's about understanding you deserve these things. Okay? So when you are setting these healthy boundaries and creating them, you have to understand the power of saying no. Learn how to say no. No is a complete sentence, right? Even though I know it can be daunting, no is simply a complete sentence. You may be hesitant to start saying no without offering more information, but do know that no is a complete sentence and you don't owe anybody an explanation. You don't have to explain why you're setting this boundary to anybody. But in the beginning, you may feel, especially if it's someone close to you, that you can give them a little bit. But I want you guys to practice over time to stop explaining yourself and just practice simply saying no. That's it. Okay? Just saying no. And I'm going to tell you, even me today, I just shared that story about my brother who called and asked for this astronomical amount of money, or it's not an astronomical amount of money, but if you just know the history of the relationship, that's a whole nother story. No, I had to say no. And even just flat out telling him no, it felt a little uncomfortable because I'm still practicing what I preach too. But I understand the importance of, right? I understand the importance of really understanding how to say just no without explaining. Okay. Sometimes assertiveness isn't needed for boundary setting as much as personal tolerance for being uncomfortable. Hear me when I say this. A lot of you guys, whoever is struggling with maintaining your boundaries, sometimes it's not about being assertive, but it's about you overcoming that uncomfortable feeling. Like I just said, it's kind of uncomfortable, right? You know, it was uncomfortable for me, but understanding that sometimes we have to be uncomfortable to protect our foundation, to protect our pillars, to protect the very thing that we're building. We have to get a little uncomfortable and start saying no flat out. Okay. So you also have to learn how to safeguard your spaces. We talked about how you can set boundaries around your stuff, your physical and your emotional spaces without in your time without necessarily announcing this. See, some boundaries aren't something that we have to communicate to people. But examples that I like to use is when you're off the clock and you have a work phone, turning that work phone off until you're back on the clock. That's a boundary, an unspoken one, but a boundary, right? Telling your children that you're going to take a shower and you would rather not be disturbed. That's a boundary, right? Saying that you're going to take some time to do some self-care, whether that be sitting out in the sun or going for a walk or things of that nature. These are all boundaries that don't necessarily need to be communicated, but they're boundaries for yourself, right? Choosing to use a password on your phone, choosing to have a password on your laptop. All of these things are uncommunicated boundaries that you can have. Almost all of us have boundaries or have passcodes on our phone. And if I'm going to tell you now, if you're in a relationship with somebody who's violating your boundary by asking for these things because there's a lack of trust, then that's a need for setting a boundary. It's also a red flag for that relationship. So I'm just throwing that out there. Okay. When you are, you can put your phone on do not disturb. Sometimes after having a long day, at the end of the day, I literally put myself on do not disturb because I need to replenish my cup. I need to take some time to refill after pouring into other people. It's okay to go on do not disturb, you guys. These are all unspoken boundaries, okay? research does tell us that we should take time to tune out. So this will create this would decrease that unhealthy quality of life and create and decrease those conflicts. So if you're trying to create a healthy relationship and you're trying to create personal boundaries and you're trying to figure out how do you become a glass half full instead of a glass half empty, you have to understand that research tells us that it is important for us to do it. And when we're not doing it, what happens? We become resentful and we stop performing as well. The next thing you guys should do, or one of the last things you guys should do if you're struggling with boundaries, is get support. All of you guys who are here watching this video tell me that you are in the business of having the support that you need. You understand that sometimes we just can't figure this thing out on our own, and that's important. So we got hashtag I statements, feelings, respect. Absolutely. No is a complete sentence. Absolutely. It definitely is. Okay. These are things that we have to make sure we're remembering as we are creating those boundaries. Okay. So now that we know how to create those boundaries, how to communicate them, etc., let's talk about how to recognize and honor other people's boundaries, because we don't want to be the people around here doing the boundary busting. Okay. And it's okay if that was you once upon a time, but we're going to learn how to not be boundary busters. Okay. We're going to watch for cues, just like you've learned how to identify the cues within yourself: heart racing, getting upset, nose flares, your hand shaking, your stomach feeling queasy or twisted up in knots. Okay. These are all signs that you can see in yourself. There's signs that you can see for other people. If they're avoiding eye contact, turning away, they're backing up when you're talking to them, they're limiting their conversation responses. Oh, you guys, when you're texting somebody and they give you these one-word responses, that's probably an indication that you're either busting a boundary or they don't want to engage in that conversation. It's up to you to determine the context based on what you guys are talking about. Being okay with feeling uncomfortable when you need to set a boundary. This is huge, you guys. Most of you guys are going to be in that realm where it's not about being assertive, because most of us are okay with being assertive. We are okay about telling somebody where to go and how to get there. And it's not about telling people where to go and how to get there, but it is about being uncomfortable and saying what needs to be said in a way that protects your foundation and protects the pillars that you've built, right? The values and the beliefs. And now you're building that hedge of protection around you in your relationships. So understanding those and watching for those social keys is going to be important. So if somebody's voice starts to change, so their pitch gets high, or there's nervous gestures such as laughing or talking fast, maybe they're folding their arms or their posture is stiffening. These are indications that someone may be feeling uncomfortable in their own boundaries, and maybe we need to take a step back. And I'm going to tell you what you can do. Okay. The best thing you can do when it comes to boundaries and you're maybe feeling this shift in the dynamics of the conversation or the interaction that you're having with the person, the best thing you can do is ask permission. Ask, am I violating a boundary? And when you start asking people about their boundaries and how you're making them feel, you open the door and give them permission to do the same thing for you. See, we talk a lot about modeling behavior. As you are learning how to establish, create, set, maintain your own boundaries, you also teach people how to do the same. And when you ask, never underestimate the power of asking. First of all, ask a person if you can give them a hug before you give them a hat. Ask them if it's okay if you can ask them a personal question. Ask them if your last comment made them uncomfortable. It's important to ask, because now you're giving people permission to really communicate their boundaries, because maybe they're not in a place where they can be assertive. Maybe they're not in a place where they feel comfortable being uncomfortable with setting that boundary, but you're giving them permission to open that door and say, you know what? I really don't want to talk about that. That's not something I'm ready to talk about yet, right? This is something that I do with my clients all the time, even as the coach, and I'm here to help you break down these barriers. I also have to respect that there may be some areas that you're not ready to deal with. So I'll ask my client, is it okay if we go here? Are you okay with going here? Because I have to understand that there's boundaries that some people place. And as a coach, while I'm here to help you overcome all of the things, I cannot force you to be ready to overcome a thing. So I have to ask. And by asking that question to them, it gives them permission to say their boundary without being uncomfortable about it, without having to be assertive, because maybe they're not there yet, right? So you do the same thing when you do that for other people. So Jadan says, I really like this. I love that. Someone says, I'm definitely trying to learn how to model, not only for myself, but for my son. Oh my gosh. I love that you said this, because the whole reason why I went on this journey as deep and as really wanting to become the best version of myself is because of my son. I looked in his eyes when he was 6 months old, and I realized he was literally repeating everything I did. If I laughed at something, he would laugh. If I frowned at something, he would give it the side eye, the squinty eye. If I proceeded with a thing, he would proceed with a thing. He was literally looking to me on how to react to situations. And it was in that moment that I literally learned how influential I was for him. So if I didn't break my own generational curses and stop with my own toxic behaviors, my son was going to start replicating them. And here we were going to be another generation of the same old, same old. So I love this. I love this. Thank you for sharing that. What do you do if you feel that way in a conversation? And you're the one that's uncomfortable. So if you're the one that's uncomfortable and they're the one who's violating that boundary for you, then you go back to what we talked about earlier, having those I statements and explaining to a person, I feel this way when blank, because blank, and I would like it if, and you insert your acts. What is it that you need them to stop doing? Or what is it that you need them to start doing? Okay. That's what you do in that situation, Jadan. Our boys are the same age. Yes, I have to be the cycle breaker. Absolutely. You have to be. You have to be in there. And I'm going to share this with you guys. It wasn't, in the plan to talk about this, but the whole reason why I do what I do is because I understand the call of my life is to break those cycles. I am here for those generational curse breakers who understand the importance of really stopping this right here, right now. And for anybody who may be like me, who's the youngest child and feels like, why me? I'm going to tell you, it's not about your birth order. It's not about your age. It's not about your status. It's not about any of that. It's about God being able to use you as an example and use what he's giving you to start breaking down some of these strongholds. And it's up to us to really step into it and do the work. Okay? Don't run from it, because the more you run from it, the more you run into those toxic situations. But the more you run to it, meaning lean into whatever God is calling you to do, the more you see those chains break, the more you see transformation, the more you see the manifestation of the life that you desire. It's a byproduct of, but you have to do the work. So I love that. Thank you so much for sharing. Okay, you guys. So we've talked about what the boundary red flags are. We've talked about how to set those boundaries, or how you define those boundaries, some questions that you can ask yourself, right? We've talked about how you can deal with other people in their boundaries, right? We've talked about turning that lens internally. We understand the house model, the foundation, which is the values, the pillars, right? That hold the walls together, that create the walls, right? That's your beliefs. And the roof, your covering, is your actual boundaries. We've talked about this. Whenever you guys get into the world, or you're starting to apply some learn, remember the house model. It's 3 things to it: your foundation, your pillars, and your covering. Your values, your beliefs, and your boundaries. Okay? Think about the house model. Okay? Boundaries are created to help us fortify our relationships with others, not to build walls to keep people out. That's what boundaries are for. Boundaries are important things for us. Boundaries clue us into our own behavior, and it clues us into the behavior of other people, which protect us from being hurt, manipulated, gaslit, okay, abused, used, whatever it is. That's what boundaries are here for, okay? Think of boundaries as, like I said, that roof, or it could be your front door. It could be both, right? Whenever if you have a front door to your, we all have a front door, not if, we all have a front door to our house, right? And whenever if you're in your house and you hear somebody kick through your front door, you understand that there's an intrusion. There's a violation that is happening in your house, right? So when somebody kicks through your boundaries, there's a violation that is happening emotionally, physically, okay, mentally. That is what boundaries are. So we have to start thinking of boundaries of not just this thing that exists somewhere in a background, but literally your hedge of protection, your covering, okay? So oftentimes we push our instincts aside because we are convinced they are unreasonable or we have been taught not to trust them. Well, I'm here to tell you that your instinct, remember earlier we asked ourselves, what does my gut say about this thing? Your instinct is the very thing that is there to protect you, okay? So if something constantly feels uncomfortable or feels unsafe, it is a red flag. Period. It is a need for you to set a boundary. It is a need for you to really dig into this thing and figure out what you can do to create that covering for yourself. Okay? And then we've learned how we can deal with other people in their boundaries. So we don't want to be the people who are boundary busting, but we are the people who are setting the examples. We're the trailblazers. We're the people who are leading by example. So we understand how we can respect other people's boundaries. When we ask people in our lives to be honest with us, we can reciprocate that by being honest with them and respecting them and opening that door to invite them into our world to start not only honoring our boundaries but learning how to set boundaries for themselves as well. Okay, I know this may feel scary, but you will appreciate it and other people will appreciate it when you start to do these things, because now you're marked as a safe person. People no longer see you as scary or unsafe or untrustworthy. And you no longer see yourself that way because you're maintaining these boundaries and you're setting them. So this is huge, you guys. I want you guys to really take the time to work through those 3 questions that we had earlier today. I'm going to put them back on the screen. They'll be at the bottom scrolling, okay? What are your rights? That's number 1. Okay? You have the right to be respected. You have the right to say no. You have the right to deny somebody's unreasonable request. What else do you feel you have the right to? Okay? These are your beliefs. These should be tied to the things that you believe that you wrote out yesterday. Your rights are your beliefs. So go back to yesterday's questions and make sure you apply them in this section. Okay? What does your gut say? What does your instinct say? What is the Holy Spirit leaning or saying to you or guiding you to? That's what this question is all about. Is it making you uncomfortable? Is it making you unsafe? Is it making you give somebody the side eye? Is it making your nostrils flare? Is it making you have those knots in your stomach? Your hands start shaking? Are you getting upset? What's happening? Lean into it. Understand that this is your body telling you that something needs to change. You need to set a boundary. And how does it align with your value? This is what we went over in day 1 on Tuesday. If you missed that, or if you missed it, go back, catch the replay from yesterday, catch the replay from Tuesday, because you can't get the full picture. You can't build your house if you missed some of the days. You got to go back and catch those replays, okay, you guys? So how does these beliefs, how do these boundaries, how do they align with your values? Okay? Are they a good representation of, or have they created a wall or a boulder? Have you become so hardened off that nothing can penetrate? It's time to start to really look into these things so that you can really get a good understanding, okay? So you guys, that's boundaries. I hope that you have taken some notes and you have really taken the time to learn how to establish those healthy boundaries in your life, because that's what we were here to do today. And over the course of the last 3 days, you've learned how to create your foundation, the pillars, and the roof, the covering, your values, your beliefs, and your boundaries. That's what you've learned. Now, I want to tell you guys, sometimes you can have all the information and you're trying to apply it to your life, and sometimes it feels like you're just hitting a brick wall. You don't know how you're going to be able to really apply this to your specific situation. If that's you, I want you to really understand that it's okay to ask for support. And I recognize that some people do need a little bit more support. So for those of you who have enjoyed this workshop and you're wanting more, I have a special offer for you. I'm having a special 8-week program called Creating Good Vibes, right? That's what we're here to do. We're creating the life that we desire. We're creating and manifesting the desired life, our dreams, right? And it's tailored for the women who are ready to really get to make real change in their life. Someone who believes that she can, but she's just not sure how. This is for the woman who's not afraid to take control of her life, not afraid to do the work. For the woman who is sick and tired of being sick and tired of the same old things, right? That do not equate to happiness, that do not equate to the life that you've dreamed and you desired. I created a special program just for you. We will be taking a deep dive into your healing journey and setting you up to attract the things that you desire, manifest the life of your dreams, okay? And start to get those good vibes. What we've been doing is talking about attracting the right energy into our lives. That's those good vibes, whether it be, attracting your perfect partner, starting a business, breaking toxic cycles, getting a promotion on the job, writing a book, becoming a better mom, learning to trust yourself, learning how to really set and maintain these boundaries. Whatever it is for you, this program is just specifically tailored for you. I'm offering that for you. So if you guys are interested in that, drop those hearts in the comments below, okay? It's going to be an 8-week program. We're going to have 8 weekly group coaching calls and one-to-one call for each lady who joins. We'll have worksheets that are specific to walk you through and practically apply. You'll have weekly trainings just like this, but with more content, more in-depth information, and a private Facebook community, all for $14.97. And there's payment plans available for you guys who need them. But don't let that stop you. Don't let this price point stop you from manifesting the life of your dreams. I had a conversation with one of the ladies yesterday, and I had been working with her earlier this year, and she was like, I'm gonna wait till later. And here it is 9-10 months later, and she's like, I'm still here. And she realized that it's time. It's time. Later is now, okay? Don't keep putting this off. Don't be that person who's still stuck 10 months later in the same position, or even 2 years later, okay? So I'm going to tell you, this is definitely for the person who's ready to make the change. But I'm going to tell you who this may not be for. This may not be for you if you're waiting for approval from other people. This may not be for you if you feel like you don't know how to take responsibility over your life's choices and your decisions. This may not be for you if you feel like nothing will ever change for you. This may not be for you if you don't believe that you can and believe that you will. This isn't going to be for the person who makes excuses and is afraid to take initiative. This is for that person who says, heck yeah, I'm ready. Heck yeah, let's do this. Because I am ready to take you on a journey that is going to literally transform your life forever. I've done it myself. I've done it for dozens and dozens of other ladies who've come to me through one-to-one coaching or group coaching programs. I've done this work, and I know that the transformation can be done, but you have to have a mindset of I am ready. You have to believe that God's promises that he has for us is not just for me, is not just for the other person who succeeded, is not just for the person who had the money, it's not just for the person who had the ambition, who already had the business, who already started writing the book. It's not just for those people, but it's for all of you. It's for all of you who know that the promises that the Lord have on your life will come to pass. Okay? But the thing is, we got to give them something to work with. We got to start taking initiative. We got to start doing the work. So if you are interested in this program, drop those hearts in the comments. Like I said, reach out to me in the DMs. If you're like, okay, Crystal, I heard you, but I'm still not sure if this is for me. DM me. Let's jump on a call together. Let's figure out where you are in your life today so that we can figure out if this program is right for you. See, here's the thing, you guys. I don't just say yes because you want to give me your money. I don't just say yes for those reasons. I say yes because there's a mutual understanding between me and you that I can give you the right information to help you get that transformation in your life, and that you are open and willing to receive the information that I have to give you. So if you're questioning how this is going to pertain to your life, get in my DM. Let's talk about it. If you're questioning the money because you don't know how you're going to make it work, get in my DM. Let's talk about it. The program cost is $14.97 paid in full, but it's worth so much more. The value you get, the transformation in your life. Imagine 8 weeks from now, you're working on your promotion. Imagine 8 weeks from now, you started writing your book. Imagine 8 weeks from now, you're positioned to attract that a partner that you desire. Imagine 8 weeks from now that big goal that you had on your vision board in the beginning of the year or even last year is not just a vision anymore, but it's become your reality. Imagine that. Don't waste time thinking about what you can do later. What about what you can do now? Utilize the assets, utilize the things that are right in front of you to start achieving the life that you desire right now. We've talked about your values, we've talked about your beliefs, we've talked about your boundaries. You have the foundational pieces, but maybe you're missing a couple of steps. And I have those missing steps for you. I have those steps for you. So make sure you guys are dropping some hearts below or getting in my DMs if you're interested in this program. If you're like, maybe group programs aren't for you, you prefer that one-to-one thing, I do have 2 spots left for one-to-one coaching this year. So reach out to me in my DM and we can talk about what that looks like for you. If you guys have any questions, drop them below because I'm here to answer them. And of course, you guys know I always come back and engage with you guys in the comments, ask you more probing questions and all of that. If you guys are still here, remember, we're hopping over to the Facebook room right here in the group where you can get some more coaching, where you can get some more of your questions answered, figuring out how this applies to your situation. Come on over to the room, okay? Come on over to the room. It's happening right after I hit the end button here, and I will talk to you guys there. But thank you guys for tuning in, and I will be back tomorrow to announce today's $20 gift card winner for the person who invites some friends, does the homework, and has engaged on this video. So I hope you guys have enjoyed it. If you have, drop some hearts below. I want to see that you guys have enjoyed it, and I will talk to you guys soon. Bye.